The United Kingdom of Great Britain was once the global superpower spanning across the world with its colonial might. This would all come crumbling down after the Weltkrieg against the Central Powers was lost in a peace with honor. With the people's support lost, all it took was a single labor dispute to escalate into a general strike, followed by a full-blown revolution. It only took 6 weeks of chaos before the royal family, together with much of the elites and military high command, fled to Canada, leaving trade unions to assume full political authority, forming the Union of Britain. As similar revolutions in France and northern Italy also toppled their regimes, the Third Internationale has been created in the old Entente lands, pushing the defeated faction into exile. On our home front, Philip Snowden, the chairman of the British Trade Union Congress, has led our government through its first 11 years of power, bringing back stability and growth. But with the 1936 Congress arriving, he has signaled his retirement, opening up the field for various new candidates. As the council began, the debate started off with economic policy, something which would shape the whole Congress. With the charismatic economy minister Oswald Mosley winning the debate for his Maximist faction, it was decided that the economy will be centralized and streamlined. As the Congress continued, Mosley's faction scored further victories by capitalizing on their initial success until on the last day Snowden resigned as chairman, prompting a chairman election. With the Trade Council voting for Mosley in an overwhelming majority, a new age for the union has set in. Mosley and his Maximist ideology are a part of the left, more broadly known as totalism, favoring more centralization, both economic, military and political. As soon as assuming power, Mosley set out to implement his economic reforms. As economic minister, he has already seen through major land redistribution, but now with complete support of the council behind him, the Department of Central Industry Research was founded to conduct his major centralization efforts. It quickly concluded that the best areas for investments were those neglected by the capitalist previous government, so major new factory hubs were opened up across Wales, the Midlands and Scotland. Thanks to our economic independence from the rest of Europe, we also wouldn't get affected by the major economic crash in Germany. Mosley's reforms aren't only on the economic front, he seeks a major revolution on the political level as well. Since assuming power, our government has already shifted further and further towards authoritarianism. Using the well-established militia system of our defense force, Mosley has started cracking down on anti-revolutionary rhetoric to pave the way for the more radical reforms by eliminating its opposition. The first of these radical changes was the overriding of the Trade Union Congress, replacing it with a fully loyal and centralized National Council. Mosley would then go on to merge the position of chairman and general secretary, a completely unconstitutional move, but one that would grant him enough power to declare his final move. In order to significantly speed up the reform progress, he declared martial law to take over the country. But this would be his first and last mistake. Having focused solely on purging the political elements of our society, the army isn't as loyal as he believed. Under the command of Percy Hobart, an old pre-syndicalist general who was pardoned by the Union government, a counter-revolution was launched. In the ensuing battle, Mosley fled, leaving a power vacuum that is unable to save syndicalism. And so, after only 12 years, the revolution has failed, with Hobart announcing it dead. What happens now remains uncertain. Across the Atlantic, the government in exile has signaled its willingness to cooperate, and several factions of the coup-makers support reinstating the Windsor family. The other factions denounce these ideas as reinstating cowardness. With Percy Hobart in full support of the latter, having long called the Windsors cowards for fleeing in exile, the monarchy will remain in Canada as the new provisional government of Great Britain has been formed by him and the military. This is a government surrounded by enemies on all sides. The nation and even the armed forces are in flames. Swift actions were immediately taken, with major purges removing all semblance of syndicalism from lower levels of government, and economic reforms were passed to untangle the mess of the socialist economy. Simultaneously, the hunt for Oswald Mosley had started, with the arch-traitor being liquidated in a decisive operation. To also destroy the reason he came into power, the Trade Union Council was made an illegal operation, putting the nail in the coffin for what little was left of it. With finally a huge purge in the army and securing the countryside both in England and in Wales and Scotland, the state has been more or less secured. While the Windsors are of course barred from returning, with stability on our isle back, Hobart has sent an invitation to all the exiles willing to renounce the Windsors to return back home. Many would take up the offer, even whole political organizations spanning from liberals to nationalists. We would even ally the nationalists to help us purge out the last bit of syndicalist support, but this would quickly turn dangerous. As the power vacuum still existed since the fall of the Union, these groups would quickly gain power, and one would even attempt to topple our regime in a march on London. But to no avail, the British Legion were beaten back and the Right Club's offers were dismissed. With that, the last shakiness of our government is over. Hobart has been able to secure his grip on our island and a military junta now rules it. Following the clear structure of the armed forces, the government is extremely centralized, with the army even taking control over the bureaucracy. Obviously, with it being the sole protector of our people, the military budget has been greatly expanded. The goal is to increase our deployed men more than sixfold, as in a world of rising tensions we must stand far more ready than we currently are. Our new regime, while stable, still remains unpopular, and the best way to fix this is by simply spreading propaganda. But the issue runs deeper. We are still only a provisional government, and in the people's eyes we lack legitimacy, as constitutionally we are a monarchy, but we lack a monarch. While we could go out and search for another royal family across the world, what tells us they won't be the same cowards? Instead, we will look back to our history in 1653. That year we faced a similar struggle with the incompetent King Charles I, and to save us the army under Oliver Cromwell took command. While this only lasted 5 years, it is enough as a blueprint. In an announcement to the nation, Hobart abolished the English throne and proclaimed a new constitution. He has taken the title of Lord Protector, and we will hereby be known as the Commonwealth of England, Scotland and Ireland. Convincing some of the doubters, the moment for reform has never been greater. The finalization of the new constitution can wait a bit though, as we focus on our fiscal policy. While the syndicalist economy and all its nationalization brought with it a bunch of confusion and inefficiencies, the idea wasn't so dumb. Under an effective military hierarchy it will succeed, as a clear regulated system will be put in place as opposed to letting the market run wild with waste. Just like most nations who have found themselves at war, we will build up a military-commanded economy, but one that will run even in peacetime. We can already see how this has further increased our control over society, and this without even the new constitution fully in place. To finally implement it, the parliament closed by the syndicalists was finally reopened, though obviously under the watchful eye of the military. This grants us a massive boost in legitimacy and stability. While some argue we should go even further and hold elections, rigged of course, we can't afford to pander to the opposition. We will keep our constitution fully militaristic, such as mandating 15% of spending on the military. And with this we stand ready to face the world, while there is obviously a lot more work to do. With over a year having gone by since our ascension to power, we need to start looking outwards to find allies and prepare for battle against our inevitable foes. Or else isolation will take hold, which we can't afford in such a turbulent world. While a few diplomats argue for a deal with the devil to join the Reichspakt, they were promptly dismissed as we formed the Commonwealth instead, a fourth alternative to the Pacte Internationale and the Entente. We started by inviting our long-term ally, the Portuguese, but we have plans to extend the hand to most other European nations who reject the current order. To show our growing strength and ability to support future allies, we sent out our navy on full-scale naval maneuvers, culminating in a confrontation with the Irish Coast Guard. As we claimed its waters and lands, Hobart used this to prepare an invasion of the island. Unfortunately, the Germans would get involved, guaranteeing their independence and halting our plans. Still, our faction expanded, with Sweden, Denmark and Iceland joining the Commonwealth. The failure to intimidate Ireland and the Germans shows we need far more, faster preparations. A 1,000,000-man army is not enough, we need even more, which higher conscription can solve. At the same time, we need to keep up in the technological department, something Hobart is fully aware of. He has a vision of transforming the British army into the best tank army in the world. So far, we are far away from this reality, with only some specialized tanks in production, but as research spending increases, we will soon surpass every army in the world stuck in the past. With massive investments in our military industry as well, transforming much of our economy to a centralized structure focused on armaments production, we are not so far away from the German military industry. And this is because full political dominance has been achieved. We are no longer a state with an army, but an army with a state. But what is an army without a war? The time to try it out has arrived, and in the Balkans of all places. In addition to Brazil joining our Commonwealth, we did the impossible and somehow allied Greece, Serbia, Bulgaria and Romania together, despite the previous and current conflicts in the region. This led to us quickly being drawn into the larger regional conflict against Illyria as Serbia claims its lands, sending over Lawrence of Arabia, soon to become Lawrence of the Balkans. Coordinating with the Navy and to train for an eventual second try in Ireland, we staged a successful naval invasion on Split. Penetrating quite deep into Illyrian lands before they reacted, we were able to encircle one of their divisions. Though after continued fighting it got freed, at the cost of their army instead getting encircled over in Trieste. With our infantry not really designed for offensive action, our output significantly slowed down, meeting Illyrian defenses. Though we helped the Austrians advance against encircled divisions and initiated our own slow offensive towards Zagreb. To our surprise, we even managed to cross the Sava River. With then a victory in the Battle of Banja Luka and splitting the Illyrian lands in two, their collapse became inevitable. Defeating their Bosnian front was fairly straightforward, but the city of Zagreb was a complete different beast. We had to force attack our way to encircle it, and only then could we start defeating their defenses. It would be in the early morning of Christmas Eve 1939 that victory was declared, and much of Yugoslavian lands are put in the hands of our allies. During this long war, we found ourselves left behind on much more pressing global matters. The Second Weltkrieg has begun, with Germany fighting France, the Entente fighting the Internationale, and Japan fighting Germany. With some of our allies noticing we aren't as prepared as we had hoped for, with still no tanks in production, 3 have left us. Iceland has switched sides, Denmark has turned neutral, and Romania joined their legionary brothers. And they are correct, we aren't really ready to fully intervene in this global war. But this gives us an opportunity as all our future enemies are distracted. Instead, we will begin rebuilding our empire, starting in Africa. A resounding victory, Egypt has been reintegrated into the empire and we've gained 4 new allies, extending our influence in the Middle East and Africa. During this invasion, we found ourselves even more outmaneuvered by our enemies, as they had already defeated the Syndicalists without us. This has forced our hand. Despite our tank division still not entering production, we've sent out our 2,000,000-man infantry army across our allies' lands that border with the Entente. On May the 10th, 1940, we declared war on the strongest faction in the world after the Americans joined the Entente. With 3 fronts, the main one being in Spain, then Norway, and finally a sneaky invasion of French Africa through Portuguese Guinea. We expect the Norwegian invasion to be simple, so we will leave it to our generals, but Spain and Africa could become harder. In Guinea, the element of surprise gave us a big amount of momentum and we were able to reach our goal of Dakar in only 12 days, securing an important foothold in the region. Our surprise war has worked well in Spain too, as we are already closing in on Madrid. With the USA not yet mobilized and Spain and France still not having recovered from the battle against the Syndicalists, this has been the perfect moment to strike. Continuing in Spain, we started using encirclement tactics, which proved immediately successful with the capture of La Coruna, but this was nowhere near the victory near Oviedo, where 9 divisions were encircled and destroyed. Switching our focus to the south, the Entente forces were defending the area far fiercer than in the north, due to the importance of the Gibraltar Straits. But eventually we cut off the area from the rest of the Spanish front, leading to a rapid collapse with several encirclements including American forces. So with Gibraltar back under British control and Madrid captured, we have a golden opportunity to defeat Spain. Despite a larger and larger French force reinforcing the front, we still broke through to Valencia, once again dividing the front in two, leaving several forces encircled and leading to the Spanish capitulation. Capitalizing on the opportunity, we kicked the Entente out of Iberia and attempted a push through the Pyrenees, something which failed. While a bit unfortunate, we have more than enough good news to sustain our war support. Over in Norway, the victory was clean. In Africa, the front has continued showing success, and despite Italy declaring war on us, we don't fear them as they've gone mad and attacked everyone. Lastly, we have extra good news from the home front. Our tanks have finally entered production together with Spitfire fighters. While we wait for their deployment, we will turn to Africa, starting by quickly cleaning up Liberia despite a strong defense. We then went on to continue into French sub-Saharan Africa, eventually capturing the hubs for crossing over the Sahara Desert. After cleaning up the last bit of resistance, we decided to attempt to cross the Saharan Desert with the expertise from Lawrence of Arabia. To our surprise, the offensive worked and we arrived in Algeria within a few days. The French must also have been surprised because we didn't really meet much resistance and could flood over troops until reaching all the way to the port of Oran, securing a much more stable source of supply. With this we could end the French rule in Africa, encircling Algiers, the previous capital of the exiles, despite the mountainous terrain, and also advancing rapidly towards Tunis. During this advance, Algiers fell to our forces, and only a few weeks later, so too did Tunis with the last Entente forces. This leaves only mainland France left in the old world for the Entente. After that, we have to somehow cross the Atlantic. But first we worry about the French. Our air force is already shredding theirs into bits, which means our now fully trained and deployed 4 tank divisions will have free reign. They worked like an absolute beauty, being unpierceable, and with the self-propelled artillery shredding their infantry into bits, we broke through and arrived with their high speed to Bordeaux only hours after the initial breakthrough. With the infantry soon catching up, we turned to the east before they had a chance to re-entrench themselves, capturing the city of Toulouse despite the river in the way and continuing almost freely to the Mediterranean Sea, encircling the whole Entente French expeditionary force. Before we destroyed them though, we first drove to Marseille, forcing the capitulation of the French Republic. Then the Pyrenees were captured, dealing over 100,000 casualties altogether. We would also crush the last-ditch effort by the Americans in Valencia, completely ending Entente resistance in Europe. This makes the next step of the war crossing the Atlantic, which with the US and Canadian Navy and no good forward base seems impossible. But no worries, we have great plans for the future. All we need is some time to prepare. While we wait, we will send more armies down to Brazil. We've already helped our allies liberate Rio de Janeiro from the Argentinians, just in time for them not to capitulate to the American invasion in the north. We also arrived with reinforcements just in time to save Recife from the American forces. While they are our main enemy, we will focus on the Argentinians to completely punch them out of the war. Argentinian faction has been defeated, making the situation in Brazil far more stable. During this battle, the preparations for our plan to cross the Atlantic had been completed. We stand ready to initiate it. So we declared war on the second strongest faction in the world, the Reichspakt, and their leader, the German Empire. What this has to do with the Atlantic, if we will succeed with our daring plan, and a lot more will be for the next video. Yes, for the first time in a long while I will make a part 2, so make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to not miss it, and I will see you there.